Standing at the precipice of collapse, the once mighty Constantinople, an isolated colossus, faced its impending end. Its renowned walls, former emblems of Roman power, now recounted narratives of ancient triumphs and looming disaster. In 1453, the youthful Sultan Mehmed dared to revive a millennia-old aspiration. He sought to claim the crown of a city that had resisted countless covetous eyes. Against the scarred stone ramparts, shadows danced as immense cannons roared like primeval beasts, causing the ground to tremble beneath the beleaguered defenders. Within, prayers mingled with apprehension, while beyond, history readied itself to determine the world's destiny. Imagine a world where the remnants of a magnificent past flicker like candlelight-illuminated specters. In 1453, Constantinople existed as a pale remnant of the Byzantine Empire, once vast but now confined to the city itself and a few distant territories. The outlines of Constantinople's famous triple walls marked the horizon, robust yet weary guardians of a legacy spanning over 1,000 years. These fortifications had repelled numerous attackers, resonating with whispers of victory and protection. Yet burdened by time, cracks traversed their stone, as if the hands of fate were subtly etching doom. Accompany me on a journey through these ancient thoroughfares where the walls themselves narrate tales of defiance. Erected during the reign of Theodosius II in the 5th century, these walls once inspired awe and fear. They had defied emperors and sultans, their impregnable design the subject of legend. Reaching nearly 40 feet and topped with watchtowers, they represented a final stronghold against the most formidable adversaries. The inhabitants who prospered within their confines possessed unwavering faith, confident that no force could penetrate such defenses without divine intervention. However, as the 15th century began, both literal and symbolic fissures started to weaken these impressive defenses. Earthquakes loosened stones, repairs were haphazard, a patchwork replacing the original skilled craftsmanship. Despite the harsh reality, these walls were more than just a defensive line. They embodied identity, representing a culture that resisted the relentless currents of history. Within the embrace of these fortifications pulsed a vibrant, living city, a dynamic mosaic of cultures. Greeks, Armenians, Italians, all converged in a cultural blend united by commerce and faith. Envision children playing on the cobblestones, the lively clamor of markets filled with bustling activity. Although diminished, Constantinople's spirit remained unbroken, a testament to its resilience. Yet beneath this vitality lay striking contrasts. Nobles dined in luxurious palaces while commoners struggled to survive. Byzantine culture drew upon the echoes of Roman grandeur, interwoven with orthodoxy. Amidst hymns and ceremonies, a growing unease lingered, a foreboding of the impending threat beyond their walls. This city, shaped by hardship, could not disregard its storied past. Sieges by Avars, Persians, and Arabs were etched in its history, its people forged in the crucible of endurance and vigilance. To traverse these streets was to walk alongside phantoms, the echoes of those who had bravely withstood the fiercest assaults. The Byzantine political arena was a complex dance of alliances and betrayals, requiring leaders of strategic intellectual prowess. Wars were fought on land and threatened from the sea, which provided both vital access and a menacing presence. The populace existed in a perpetual state of readiness, where defense was not merely a tactic, but an essential aspect of survival. Nevertheless, the allure of Constantinople extended beyond its defenses. It lay in its very core, a convergence of cultures, faiths, and ideologies. Greek, Roman, and Christian heritage intertwined like golden threads within its fabric. The bazaars overflowed with spices and silks, offering an exotic sensory delight. Within the magnificent Hagia Sophia, faith resonated in echoing hymns, imbuing the city with hope and unity. Yet even these cultural tapestries were showing signs of wear. By the 15th century, ancient ways could not withstand the march of time. New horizons captivated sailors and merchants with tales of lands beyond Constantinople's reach. Caught between nostalgia and the emerging reality of its diminishing influence, Byzantium faltered as the world's narrative reshaped itself around it. At the heart of the city resided Constantine XI Palaiologos, the last Byzantine emperor, acutely aware of the immense burden he carried. His leadership transcended mere governance. It represented a link to a fading era, a guardian confronting the inescapable force of destiny. His reign was marked by a stoic acceptance of the tumultuous forces gathering outside the city gates. He clung to the dual pillars of faith and duty, understanding the fragile promise of salvation offered by Western powers, whose pledges often dissolved like whispers in the wind. As the Ottomans approached, Constantine embodied the spirit of a city prepared to face its fate, not with despair, but with a resolute dignity befitting its legacy. As the people of Constantinople gazed upon their historic walls, they confronted the twilight of an era. Their legacy, a brilliant beacon glimpsed in the rearview mirror of history, was embedded in the stone foundations. Each individual carried a personal account of Constantinople, tales etched by time, woven into the fabric of hope. Within these narratives lay a resilience that demanded recognition, even as the final grains of sand emptied from the hourglass. The siege of 1453 would soon become not merely a final stand, but a defining moment as Constantinople readied itself to conclude an ancient story. Its echoes were destined to reverberate through the corridors of time. In the unfolding narrative of the Ottoman Empire, Mehmed II, a young ruler, ascended from the realm of mere ambition into a destiny-laden domain. Possessing a sharp intellect and aspirations keener than the swords he wielded, Mehmed was more than just an heir to a throne. He inherited an imperial vision. Schooled by the era's most brilliant minds, he embraced a comprehensive education, blending Islamic tradition with worldly classical studies, his curiosity sparking visions of an unparalleled empire. At just 21, he set his sights on Constantinople, a bastion of power and civilization that had resisted capture for centuries. For Mehmed, conquering the city was a divinely ordained act, a narrative of destiny he employed to mobilize his followers, presenting it as both a sacred mission and a crucial step towards a new global order. Amidst the whispers of destiny, ancient prophecies held significant sway, foretelling the arrival of a conqueror from the east who would one day seize the city. Mehmed was captivated, seeing himself as the fulfillment of these age-old predictions. To him, this was not mere chance. It was fate. He framed his ambitions within the context of ancient tales, captivating his army with the promise of eternal glory. Constantinople was not just a siege, it was the dawn of a new era for the Ottomans. Ambition transforming into action. Investing in military innovation, Mehmed enlisted engineers, notably the Hungarian Urban, to construct formidable cannons capable of breaching the city's robust defenses. The young sultan's preparations extended beyond military might. They included the creation of a naval force capable of challenging Byzantine control, demonstrating his strategic acumen. His forces, a blend of power and ingenuity, were poised not only to engage in siege warfare, but to revolutionize it, a reflection of the spirit of destiny he instilled in his troops. Emerging from his domain, Mehmed's armies presented a spectacle of organized might, their diversity mirroring the vastness of his empire. Under his charismatic leadership and vision, warriors from Anatolia to the Balkans assembled. They were more than just soldiers. They represented a unity forged through rituals of camaraderie and the promise of conquest. The formidable Janissaries recruited through the Devshirme system constituted his elite force. Raised from childhood, fiercely loyal, and rigorously trained to withstand the horrors of siege warfare, they stood alongside cavalry, artillerymen, and engineers. A force both diverse and cohesive, conceived by a leader who transcended conventional boundaries. Mehmed's influence extended to the realm of the mind, employing psychological warfare with cunning skill. Drawing upon religious fervor, he portrayed the conquest as a holy obligation dictated by divine will, inspiring his troops while instilling fear in the hearts of his enemies. Facing the defenders of Constantinople were not merely soldiers, but believers fighting a battle rooted in centuries of faith and prophecy. The weight of destiny was palpable within his encampment, a tangible force intertwined with their resolve. Equally adept were Mehmed's diplomatic maneuvers. He negotiated treaties to secure peace along his borders, enabling him to concentrate his full force on Constantinople without facing external threats. Through strategic alliances and the calculated distribution of Ottoman wealth, Mehmed shifted the geopolitical landscape, ensuring his siege within the city remained undisturbed. His diplomacy evolved into deception as clandestine promises sought to sow discord within Byzantine unity. Wealth and power were whispered in shadowy corners, but many remained steadfast, loyal to their city. In the shadow of the impending conquest, paranoia took root, further undermining defenses through a more subtle internal siege. As the winter chill receded, Mehmed's army advanced like a rising tide, causing Constantinople to tremble at the sight of the darkened horizon, obscured by the banners of the approaching horde. As the city found itself encircled by a ring of steel and fire, its defenders braced under immense pressure, uncertain where Mehmed's assault would fall. With each passing day, the siege materialized not as an immediate attack, but as a calculated encirclement, a tightening grip fueled by a grand vision of transformation. Mehmed depicted the siege not merely as an act of conquest, but as a confrontation scripted by history itself, inspiring his troops through seasoned rhetoric and unwavering ambition. The walls of Constantinople, ancient marvels of defensive architecture, stood defiant against Mehmed's onslaught, their layered stones steeped in tales of endurance. Against these formidable fortifications, Mehmed unleashed his artillery in a relentless barrage, pounding with fierce persistence as scouts and defectors sought vulnerabilities within their vast expanse. Yet the defenders' spirits mirrored the strength of their stone ramparts, drawing from an inner wellspring of resilience. As conflict raged along the walls, the defenders confronted the Ottomans with a dedication reflecting their leaders' intensity. In Mehmed's camp, faith unified, fortifying the soldiers not just as instruments of fate, but as ardent believers on a celestial quest. Their collective spirit stemmed not merely from promises of spoils, but from a profound sense of duty, a mosaic crafted through shared hardship and celebration alike. Mehmed's forces exemplified this bond of faith, so tightly woven that they emerged with a power transcending the formidable obstacles ahead. As spring unfurled its banner, tensions simmered, and Mehmed stood on the brink of an epic transformation. The prospect of conquest and defiance offered no respite. Armies assembled for the impending storm, a clash infused with both relentless pursuit and the unalterable specter of destiny. In 1453, Constantinople appeared as a phantom of its former glory. Once the epicenter of a vast Byzantine empire, the city now faced the inexorable advance of Ottoman expansion. Its inhabitants resided amidst ancient ruins, whispers of past grandeur intermingled with the ever-present threat of annihilation. Here, the ordinary frequently intersected with the extraordinary, every stone narrating a tale of resilience against overwhelming odds. The city's formidable, triple-layered walls, a legacy of Emperor Theodosius II, had long symbolized defiance, standing firm against countless sieges. Yet as Mehmed II positioned his forces, these revered walls found themselves exposed, highlighting Emperor Constantine I's desperate situation. Emperor Constantine, a ruler navigating a legacy that crumbled around him, faced relentless challenges. Ascending the throne in 1449, his reign was marked by turmoil. Yet Constantine, a paradoxical blend of strength and vulnerability, remained resolute, striving to preserve what little remained of Byzantium. His story was one of tragic heroism, not solely in military strategy, but in inspiring hope amidst dwindling resources and alliances. Diplomatic ties frayed, and the West's indifference was palpable, entangled in theological disputes and political maneuvering. Despite these circumstances, Constantine balanced diplomacy with decisive action, embodying the burdens of leadership when hope seemed all but lost. In uncertain times, the citizens of Constantinople sought strength and faith. The ancient churches, with Hagia Sophia as their crown jewel, served as sanctuaries of both belief and community. Byzantine spirituality shone through the darkness, a beacon amidst the chaos. Chants and prayers offered solace, echoing a belief in divine providence. Icons, relics, and mosaics adorned the city, forming a vibrant tapestry of faith and history. Spiritual leaders fostered resilience, portraying the city not just as a location, but as a symbol of heritage worth defending. This cultural fortitude motivated the citizens to fight for an ancient tradition against seemingly insurmountable odds. The defenders, an eclectic group totaling fewer than 8,000 men, were united by a single purpose: to protect their home from the Ottoman onslaught. This improvised army consisted of professional soldiers, civilians, and foreign mercenaries. Italians from Genoa and Venice, Greeks, and soldiers from across Europe united. Giovanni Giustiniani Longo, a Genoese commander, led with distinction, earning respect across various factions. Despite cultural differences, these defenders exhibited a rare camaraderie driven by the innate human instinct for survival against incredible odds. As the siege intensified, Constantinople's plight underscored the apathy and divisions within Christendom. Despite repeated pleas, Western responses were lukewarm, their aid limited by political interests and religious schisms. The papacy, entangled in power struggles, offered spiritual support but little else. This disunity highlighted a fragmented medieval Europe, a prelude to future geopolitical complexities. Although Constantinople appeared isolated in its final days, its intellectual legacy influenced the Western Renaissance, its scholars igniting a cultural awakening that defied its perceived isolation. The city's influence, a crossroads of continuity and innovation, catalyzed transformations that reshaped global landscapes, leaving a legacy not only in its fall, but in its enduring intellectual heritage. Life within the besieged city unfolded amidst uncertainty and danger. Merchants, tradesmen, and families saw their daily lives redefined by the realities of the siege. Commerce, once the city's lifeblood, ceased. Market supplies dwindled, and ports lay silent under Ottoman control. Yet adversity fostered resilience. Citizens adapted, their ingenuity a testament to human endurance. Food was rationed, defenses were reinforced, each person finding a role in the city's desperate struggle for survival. Despite relentless bombardments, hope flickered amidst despair, a spectral symphony of resistance where prayers intertwined with the sounds of war machines. The people of Constantinople in their struggles embodied medieval resilience, their shared fortitude, a bulwark against impending doom. Hope, a fragile yet essential ally, sustained the city's defenders. Letters to Western courts seeking military aid and solidarity often met with apathy. Promises, when made, were empty and delayed by bureaucratic inertia. As hope diminished, despair became palpable. Constantinople's isolation descended like a shroud, promised relief forces fading into phantoms. Yet amidst this, the defenders turned inward, drawing strength from shared history and leadership as external salvation waned. Such emotional turmoil serves as a timeless reminder of unfulfilled promises and the stark endurance required when left to face adversity alone. With defeat seemingly inevitable, the citizens and defenders confronted a future of death or subjugation, but their resolve remained unbroken. On the eve of the final Ottoman assault, Constantine and his advisors gathered in Hagia Sophia for a last communion. Here, amidst solemn prayers and confessions, they affirmed a shared love for their city, preparing to lay down their lives in its defense. This poignant act of courage transcends history, echoing dignity and fidelity as they braced for the end, resolute in facing their fate with honor. Constantinople's story, more than just an account of conflict, is a narrative of human experience, interweaving past and future, urging unity, resilience, and hope in the face of overwhelming change. The magnificent walls of Constantinople, silent guardians for over 1,000 years, were once the pride of the Byzantine Empire. Constructed by Byzantine emperors, they consisted of a moat, an outer wall with towers, and a towering inner wall, forming an almost impenetrable defense. However, by 1453, time had eroded their grandeur. The stones crumbled and the mortar cracked, rendering the walls vulnerable and exposing the city to potential ruin. Inside, the citizens clung to the myths surrounding their unconquerable defenses, but the air was alive with rumors of the Ottoman cannons, whispers that eroded their fragile confidence. At the core of this threat stood Sultan Mehmed II, a mere 21 years old, wielding both youthful fervor and a terrifying arsenal. The engineer Urban had crafted monstrous cannons capable of launching massive stone projectiles, some weighing almost 200 pounds, over incredible distances. Among them loomed the Basilica, a cannon so enormous it seemed born of fantasy. With each test firing, the Ottoman camps erupted in awe, reverberating with the promise of destruction. For those within the ancient walls, a pervasive fear took hold. Their time as guardians of a once great empire was nearing its end. These new cannons were not just intimidating, they symbolized a shift in the art of war, The basilica alone, stretching an impressive 27 feet, could devastate defenses previously considered impregnable, heralding the era of gunpowder artillery. As anticipation grew within the Ottoman ranks, they celebrated each thunderous blast, a fusion of scientific brilliance and martial ferocity. The defenders experienced these echoes as tremors, both physical and spiritual, signaling the imminent fall of their storied bastion. Each reverberation felt like divine judgment echoing through the city, shaking its very foundation. Amidst this turmoil, Emperor Constantine XI rallied his people. Their numbers were small, but their resolve was fervent, reminiscent of past battles against besiegers. The Byzantines employed ancient tactics alongside desperate innovations. Greek fire, strategic sallies, and barricades constructed from debris from incessant shelling. Despite pleas for aid from Western allies, help was scarce, leaving Constantinople isolated yet resolute, driven by the spirits of their ancestors, who knew neither fear nor retreat. The siege itself was a symphony of explosive destruction and chaos. The basilica roared like a fire-breathing titan, its projectiles transforming the landscape and morale of Constantinople's defenders. As impact followed impact, clouds of dust and smoke enveloped the city, its defenders scrambling to repair breaches. Despite the chaos, their defiance was a dance of desperation, a gritty testament to a legacy of survival. The battle for a civilization's soul manifested in their unwavering tenacity. Ingenuity played a crucial role in this bitter standoff. The Byzantines cunningly utilized their surroundings. Their feared Greek fire set ships ablaze, while tunnels were dug to uncover and thwart Ottoman mines. On the opposing side, Mehmed and his commanders employed the formidable cannons not just for brute force, but for tactical precision. This conflict witnessed different epochs clashing in a choreography of military evolution, where ancient stone battled metallic ambition. Yet even as Ottoman might pressed relentlessly, frustrations mounted within their camp. The defenders held out far longer than anticipated. Food became scarce, and the Ottoman ranks mirrored these shortages, stretching morale thin over days that barely progressed. Inside the walls, suffering persisted through hunger and disease. Yet the Byzantine spirit, though weary, refused to break. Each repaired breach, each offered assurance, serving as incantations against the destroyer's siege. Throughout these harrowing days, superstitions shrouded both camps in uncertainty. Within Constantinople, prophecies were whispered in hushed tones. Legends of angelic salvation offered glimpses of desperate hope. For the Ottomans, Constantinople was not mere territory, but a cornerstone of destiny for their sultan, seen as a sign of divine favor and the promise of future glory. Every cloud formation, every flight of birds could influence morale, and each omen was meticulously interpreted, shaping a narrative to either inspire hope or sow despair. Mehmed's engineers faced daunting challenges, transporting massive artillery through treacherous terrain, an undertaking reminiscent of those from pharaonic eras. These feats of engineering ensured the cannon's unceasing fury against the walls, an echo of innovation that filled the besieged with awe, even as they faced annihilation. The siege became a testament to the endurance of human ingenuity and indomitable will, with each side pushing the boundaries of civilization in the pursuit or defense of empire. Through this crucible, heroes and villains emerged, figures whose names would be etched in history on the stone and soil of Constantinople. Emperor Constantine, steadfast and courageous, embodied the defiance of a civilization under siege. Opposing him was Mehmed II, relentless and driven, his vision extending the Ottoman dream. This was more than a clash between empires. It was a saga of ambition and resilience, the human spirit captured in moments of both brilliance and cruelty. As the siege drew near its conclusion, silence settled over the battlefield, a tense calm before the final storm. This pause, both ominous and reflective, provided a brief respite for desperate prayers and futile preparations on all sides. Yet this silence was pregnant with finality, the closing of a long story echoing through time, preparing to seal Constantinople's fate in history's relentless journal. Poised on the brink of irreversible change, the Byzantines understood the vital importance of the Golden Horn's waters for their defense, relying on an ancient yet potent symbol of their resilience. A massive iron chain stretched across the harbor's entrance. This chain, fortified by large wooden floats, was more than just a physical barrier. It symbolized Constantinople's storied past and its capacity to withstand conquest. It offered a tangible shield against any naval incursions, serving to bolster the spirits of those within the city walls. Constantinopolitans viewed it as an unyielding line of defense, establishing a network of supply routes essential for the city's survival. Yet this robust chain faced the formidable will and clever mind of Mehmed II, who was undeterred by traditional limitations. Mehmed, the young sultan, possessed extraordinary vision and determination that dared to challenge the very foundations of military norms. His audacious solution involved a remarkable feat: to bypass the Byzantines' precious chain by transporting his fleet overland. Utilizing greased logs, he engineered a path over solid ground, echoing legendary military tactics of ancient times. By creating this terrestrial route, Mehmed defied expectations and altered the topography of warfare, achieving what seemed impossible under the cloak of night. The execution of this plan demanded immense coordination, with soldiers and laborers all contributing to this grand display of human and military ambition. These efforts culminated in the appearance of Ottoman ships behind the city's barricaded defenses. For the Byzantines, the sight of warships emerging from what was considered a secure sanctuary sent shockwaves through their ranks, undermining the morale of a city already strained by the siege. The dawn that followed bore witness to a surreal scene. Ottoman flags flew defiantly above the waters, once considered invincible, casting reflections of inevitable doom upon the calm surface. The chain, which had for so long symbolized hope and security, now lay powerless in the face of Mehmed's ingenuity. Panic spread throughout the city as the realization took hold. No corner of Constantinople was safe from Mehmed's daring ambitions. The collective spirit of the people began to waver, with prayers turning desperate and fervent. The psychological impact of Mehmed's maritime maneuver was profound. For Constantinople's defenders, it wasn't just about regaining control over the Golden Horn. It was about confronting an enemy who had outsmarted their longest-standing traditions. As Ottoman drumbeats echoed and the scent of pitch permeated the air, the city's thin veil of hope for salvation began to dissipate. Mehmed complemented his naval triumph with a relentless psychological assault, amplifying the dread that had infiltrated the Byzantine stronghold. Constructing this overland route was a complex undertaking, highlighting the extent of Mehmed's resources and the unity of purpose among his forces. The creation of a wooden track, greased and smooth to facilitate the fleet's passage, stands as a testament to human innovation. This monumental effort, conceived in secrecy and executed with precision, revealed the Ottoman commitment to seizing Constantinople. It also showcased Mehmed's resolve and creativity, forever changing the dynamics of siege warfare. As the Byzantine leadership grappled with Mehmed's maneuvers, fear and chaos took root. Emergency councils convened, and Emperor Constantine XI implored his people to rally against this newfound threat. Superstitions mingled with historical traditions, forming a tapestry of hopes and fears as the city sought strength in the face of advancing doom. Yet the chilling truth that Mehmed would stop at nothing rendered any flickering hope faint and ephemeral. Facing this new maritime threat, the Byzantine military had to recalibrate its entire defense strategy. The limited warships still at their disposal were deployed urgently, attempting to regain some semblance of control over the vital waterways. Nautical battles erupted, adding another layer of complexity to a beleaguered city's struggles. Despite the insurmountable odds, Constantinople's defenders exhibited extraordinary resilience. Centuries of history had steeled them against despair, and every act of defense became a testament to their defiant spirit. Yet even as they pressed forward, unbowed by circumstance, the constant shadow of Ottoman encroachment loomed large. Recognizing the impending threat, the Byzantines adapted their strategies, prioritizing survival. Even as the siege dragged on, they fortified their defenses and improvised solutions against overwhelming pressures, bonding over shared vulnerabilities. The relentless tolling of church bells echoed across the city, a solemn reminder of solidarity against an unyielding adversary. In the end, Mehmed's seizure of the Golden Horn underscored a timeless lesson. Adaptability can outmaneuver tradition. This breach shattered old conventions and redrew the boundaries of siege warfare. Yet Constantinople's legacy remains one of tenacity and resolve. Despite their fall, the defenders' courage echoes through time, leaving an indelible mark on how we understand the entwined forces of innovation and tenacious spirit in history's grand narrative. For weeks, Constantinople endured the relentless assault of the Ottoman Empire. Each day was marked by the thunderous boom of cannon fire and the collapse of its ancient walls. Under the ambitious leadership of Sultan Mehmed II, the city seemed poised on the brink of annihilation. Smoke from the incessant bombardment hung heavy in the air, a mournful shroud weighing down the city. Yet amidst the cacophony and destruction, Constantinople refused to surrender, a tenacious emblem of the Byzantine spirit. The siege was a test of both technology and human endurance. With the defenders struggling under the relentless barrage, fear and determination were constant companions as cannon blasts mingled with the desperate cries of soldiers and the fervent prayers of the faithful. The city was a crucible of dread and hope, where the limits of ingenuity and resilience clashed in a dramatic battle for survival. Inside the city walls, a silent assailant joined the siege: disease. Overcrowded and overwhelmed, Constantinople's rudimentary sanitation systems buckled under the strain. Fever and illness spread stealthily among the populace, claiming weary souls with insidious precision. As food supplies dwindled and medicines became scarce, the specter of disease loomed large, a dread holding the potential for greater devastation than the soldiers outside the gates. Even in the face of such despair, pockets of resilience shone through. Ordinary citizens emerged as unsung heroes, tending to their sick neighbors and sharing what little they possessed. These acts of defiance underscored a powerful truth: the human spirit, faced with overwhelming odds, remains remarkably unyielding. In the thick of this crisis, the people of Constantinople found hope and resolve, binding them together in their shared struggle. Night assaults compounded the city's torment. Under the cover of darkness, Ottoman forces launched daring attacks, their shadows amplified by the cannon's roar. Each rustle and echo in the night heightened anxiety among the defenders, uncertainty cloaking the city like a thief. Night watchmen, sleep-deprived yet vigilant, stood as the first line of defense. Their stories of courage passed into the annals of legend. Morale hovered precariously, hopes dwindling with each shattered stone. Emperor Constantine XI rallied his people with stirring proclamations, but the reality of scarce food and the absence of aid cast long shadows over their spirits. Whispers of surrender grew louder among the weary, though faith still held many tethered to the possibility of miraculous salvation or Western intervention. At the epicenter of this turmoil stood Hagia Sophia, a fortress not of stone, but of spirit. The great church became a beacon of hope, its soaring dome a testament to the city's enduring cultural legacy. Within its hallowed walls, hymns and prayers echoed, serving as both sanctuary and spiritual arsenal against the advancing forces. Bishops and priests wielded words like armor, strengthening the resolve of those who gathered beneath the sacred dome. Hunger emerged as a stealthy adversary. Provisions dwindled, and hunger gnawed relentlessly at the city's people. Bread, once a staple, became precious currency. Every boiled grain and watered-down stew was a reminder of their plight. Yet hunger proved a unifying force, touching all regardless of status, driving a shared determination to survive and rally against the relentless siege. Beneath this visible turmoil was another conflict. Ottoman sappers worked their way into the earth, carving tunnels in a bid to undermine the city's foundations. This hidden war beneath the ground added a layer of claustrophobic tension as Byzantine engineers engaged in countermining, listening and digging to thwart their subterranean adversaries. The silent confrontation in these dimly lit passages showcased the ingenuity and tenacity of both sides, each side aware that the city's fate hinged on their efforts. As the siege dragged on, the people turned increasingly to prayer for deliverance. Religious rites and solemn processions filled the days as the plea for divine intervention blended with their physical efforts to defend their city. The emperor and clergy encouraged fervent devotion, believing this might summon heavenly aid. Such acts of faith tethered the community together, infusing hope into their dire circumstances. In the midst of ongoing chaos, Moments of eerie silence draped the city, anticipation thick in the air. These pauses, a sharp contrast to the explosions and cries, were fraught with tension. Such stillness allowed reflection, offering a moment to gather strength for the impending struggle. The defenders steeled themselves, their resolve hardening like iron under the flame, preparing for the decisive confrontation that lay ahead. Despite disease, hunger, and the pressures of impending conquest, Constantinople's resolve never truly faltered. Their fierce determination etched stories of courage and perseverance into the very stones of their city. Standing unyielding, the city's defenders drew strength from their Byzantine heritage. Facing each new assault with undimmed bravery, bound by collective memory and shared purpose, they were a united front against an insurmountable fate, prepared to meet history's judgment, not with surrender, but with defiance. If this strange little slice of medieval life stirred your curiosity or your stomach, give us a like. And if you're hungry for more gritty tales from the dark side of history, subscribe to Medieval Grime. We serve our history smoked, salted, and a little bit cheeky. Thanks for watching. Stay grimy, and we'll see you next time by the fire. As dawn broke over Constantinople on May 29, 1453, the city lay shrouded in a heavy silence. A sense of desperation clung to the air, mingling with an unyielding defiance, like the ominous calm before a storm. Within the fraying walls, families whispered fervent prayers, their faith flickering against the impending darkness. The siege had reached its breaking point. In this morning, the city seemed suspended in time, contemplating its fate with bated breath. Constantine XI, Palaiologos, the resolute last emperor of Byzantium, moved through his ranks with a solemn, unwavering resolve. He was a figure poised on the brink of defeat, yet his every step resonated with a determination to fight until the bitter end. The defenders numbered fewer than 7,000, a mix of weary soldiers, stalwart volunteers, and mercenaries whose fortitude lent strength to the ragtag band. As the first rays of sunlight caressed the ancient stones, hearts quickened, knowing that today history would be inscribed in blood or victory. Beyond the walls, chaos orchestrated by Sultan Mehmed II loomed like a maestro symphony. The youthful visionary led an Ottoman army, tens of thousands strong, driven by his ambition and promises of glory. Soldiers adorned in diverse armors and vibrant banners stood ready for the final assault. The shadow of the basilica cannon lay dormant, yet its potential destruction hummed through the ranks. Across the known world, eyes watched this ancient jewel of Christendom teetering on the edge of obliteration. Under the climbing sun, the Ottomans advanced like a silken tide, set to envelop Byzantium's last breath. For Constantine and his city, retreat was not an option. The day would rewrite empires and futures. The notorious walls of Constantinople, once deemed impregnable, groaned and splintered under ceaseless Ottoman pressure. As dawn's early light gave way, Mehmed's cannons shattered the tranquility with deafening roars. Each thunderous shot was a harbinger of doom, missiles crashing into stone and mortar, heralding modern warfare's brutal era. These enduring structures, witnesses to countless onslaughts, now stood more vulnerable than ever. With every impact, new breaches gaped, inviting Mehmed's relentless forces into the city. Inside, defenders scrambled amid the dust and debris, their efforts driven more by desperation than strategy. Amid the chaos, tales of valor emerged. Constantine moved from one fierce confrontation to another, his presence a beacon, rallying his men. His armor glinted defiantly in the dawn, a lone echo of a line of Roman emperors. Yet as ladders ascended and stones crumbled, the walls threatened to yield their secrets and stories to the earth. Soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder, wielding crossbows and swords, each blow carrying the weight of centuries. But the breach was undeniable. The Ottomans infiltrated the city like relentless ink, sealing its fate with inevitability. The walls sighed, a resigned breath of empire's end. Constantine XI was the embodiment of his city's defenders. As battle raged, he fought not as royalty, but as one among warriors, his sword singing with defiance. Observers marveled at his resolve. How could a man of such stature eschew safety, knowing the grim outcome? For Constantine, retreat was never an option. His courage was a well-tailored cloak, unwavering in the face of Mehmed's might. Every clash was as much for dignity as for the city. Rather than plotting escape, he found within himself an indomitable grace, transforming his final hours into a sonnet of heroism. In the melee, Constantine became a legend, a tragic yet noble figure. Tales of his last stand linger, whispered among campfires, etched into history like the dying breath of the Roman spirit. He was last seen near the gate of St. Romanos, a place resonant with imperial history. Some stories have him discarding his imperial garb to fight alongside his men, a blurring of ruler and defender. This imagery, the armored hero disappearing into chaos, endures as a resonant symbol of a civilization's last struggle against the unstoppable force of change. Within the city, pandemonium reigned as Ottoman forces surged through breaches, consuming all in their path. Constantinople, a vibrant mosaic of cultures, commerce, and faith, echoed with fear and the clash of swords. Streets once used for solemn processions now hosted the grim dance of war. Families huddled in homes. Clerics chanted prayers. Nature itself mirrored the turmoil. Birds fled, clouds thickened. The city's cathedrals, its spiritual heart, quaked under impending doom. The faithful sought solace amidst towering columns. The fall of Constantinople was more than just a military defeat. It represented a profound transformation of space, spirit, and identity. Amidst the conflict, some citizens awaited their conquerors, viewing the Ottomans as either an end or a beginning. Homes became impromptu forts, markets transformed into battlefields, and the lines between defense and surrender blurred. With grim irony, the majestic Hagia Sophia, central to Byzantine faith, became a sanctuary for many. As its ancient doors closed, Mehmed's realm loomed. In this moment, Constantinople transitioned from a geographical landmark to a legend, its story spreading across lands and ages. The enigmatic disappearance of Constantine XI fueled the mythos surrounding the city's fall. The absence of his body only amplified the legends. Talk of his vanishing sparked speculation and imagination, suggesting not merely an end, but a potential continuation. Some whispered of his eventual return, sword raised, a dream carried through time as a hopeful murmur. His legacy, both mythical and mysterious, endures. His valiant stand remains a timeless rallying cry against the tides of change. The siege of Constantinople reached its dramatic climax with the eventual collapse of the once indomitable Theodosian walls, marking a pivotal moment in history. For over a millennium, these ancient stone ramparts had resisted countless adversaries, but the relentless barrage from Ottoman cannons had taken its toll. As the first light of May 29, 1453, crept over the horizon, Ottoman forces poured through the breaches, overwhelming the Byzantine defenders with their sheer numbers and fierce determination. The once mighty city, a bastion of Christianity, now faced the stark reality of its imminent fall. Panic spread swiftly as soldiers and civilians alike recognized the inevitable collapse of their world. Chaos engulfed the streets, previously quiet with anxious anticipation, now alive with the tumult of battle cries and the harsh clatter of steel on stone. The scent of acrid smoke from crumbling fortifications hung heavy in the air. Citizens trapped between hope and despair watched helplessly as the storied city transformed from a symbol of ancient power into a haunting monument to change. This was more than just the fall of a city. It marked the collapse of a 1,000-year-old empire and heralded the dawn of a new era. Once vibrant with grand churches, bustling markets, and intricate mosaics, Constantinople lay ravaged, its majestic landscapes scarred by conquest. Churches that once resonated with hymns now echoed with the clamor of looters. Hagia Sophia, the heart of Byzantine spiritual life, witnessed its final Christian service amidst the chaos. The treasures and relics of the past, once revered, became spoils of war, cast aside or spirited away amidst indiscriminate pillaging. Survivors, those unable to flee or hide, faced grim fates. Thousands were enslaved, families torn apart, their sanctuaries shattered, left to navigate a world irrevocably altered. Within this turmoil, Hagia Sophia stood as the most potent symbol of change. This architectural marvel, once a beacon of Christian worship, began its transformation under the decree of Mehmed II. The cross that once adorned its dome gave way to the crescent, a stark symbol of epic transition. Inside, the Christian icons and mosaics that adorned its walls were covered. Their preservation was almost an accidental fortune, as the space reverberated with the haunting echo of the muezzin's call to prayer. This change was not merely a shift in religious practice. It encapsulated the fall of an ancient world and the rise of the Ottomans as a dominant new power. Amidst the initial despair, Constantinople's residents faced harsh realities. Captivity awaited thousands as they were sold into slavery. Families were splintered by the brutalities of conquest. Yet even in these shadows, resilience emerged. Those skilled in trade or crafts found new roles, albeit within altered constraints. Byzantine scholars fleeing in the wake of defeat carried with them the ancient texts and knowledge that would subtly contribute to the Renaissance. As Greeks, Armenians, and Turks mingled, a complex multicultural society began to take root, flourishing within the bounds of this newly expanded Ottoman sphere. For Mehmed II, the conquest marked his definitive triumph, solidifying his legacy as both a visionary leader and martial genius. Known to history as Mehmed the Conqueror, he approached the ravaged city not as a war trophy, but as a cornerstone for renewal. Instead of demolishing Constantinople, he sought to revitalize it, positioning it at the heart of his expanding empire. By inviting a wave of settlers and initiating grand architectural projects, Mehmed infused the city with fresh vitality and purpose, establishing it as a vibrant capital that would bridge two worlds. The fall of Constantinople symbolized more than the demise of a city. It marked an epic shift. It was both the end of Byzantine rule and a poignant farewell to the last remnant of the ancient Roman legacy. For over 1,000 years, Constantinople had been a bastion of Roman and Christian heritage, a beacon long after the Western Roman Empire had faded into memory. Its fall prompted a profound reevaluation within Christendom, highlighting both its vulnerabilities and its deep-seated divisions. The Byzantine Empire, through its blend of Greek, Roman, and Christian traditions, had been a steadfast custodian of classical knowledge amidst centuries of conflict and refinement. As news of its capture reverberated through Europe, it triggered a dramatic existential reckoning. Where Constantinople had once stood as a seemingly impregnable guardian at Christianity's border, its fall served as a sudden and stark call to action. Defensive strategies were reshaped, while Byzantine scholars armed with precious tomes helped ignite the fires of the Renaissance across Europe. Despite the immediate setbacks, the seeds of transformation were sown, redefining the West's cultural, scientific, and philosophical landscape. The fall of this city illustrated both the impermanence of empire and the enduring power of human adaptability. The rebirth of Constantinople under Ottoman rule and the stimulus it provided to the Renaissance remind us that history, much like the timeless currents of the Bosporus, flows with unyielding continuity. As the dust settled in the conquered city, Mehmed II made a grand entrance into Constantinople, marking the dawn of a new era with a spectacle that was both calculated and deeply symbolic. This was not merely the arrival of a conqueror, but a carefully orchestrated performance intended to assert Ottoman dominance and validate his claim as heir to the legacy of the Roman Empire. Riding through the ancient Theodosian walls, Mehmed was not simply celebrating a military victory. He was positioning himself as a continuation of Roman tradition, presenting the Ottomans as legitimate successors. Picture the young sultan adorned in the regalia of both Eastern and Western traditions, blending Turkish and Roman iconography, creating a tableau that sent ripples of awe through Byzantium and far beyond to the courts of Europe, where rulers pondered this chess game of Eastern ambition. Adopting the title Kaiser-i Rum, or Caesar of Rome, Mehmed was making a statement that was both ambitious and pragmatic. By drawing upon Rome's legacy, he hoped not only to legitimize his reign, but to incorporate a lineage respected throughout the known world. His vision was neither capricious nor a simple desire for a title. It was an astute move to shape the narrative of history itself. By invoking the weighty lineage of Augustus and his successors, Mehmed seamlessly fused Islamic governance with Roman traditions, a socio-political tapestry that would support the diverse peoples under his rule. This was geopolitical chess played with skilled hands, where the stakes were not just territorial but historical continuity. Upon entering Constantinople, Mehmed surprised many by implementing policies of preservation rather than destruction. He viewed the city not as a trophy to be demolished, but as a jewel to be polished. Recognizing Constantinople's infrastructure, strategic location, and cultural significance, he set out to rebuild what war had scarred, all while imbuing it with visions of an Ottoman future. His approach was a blend of foresight and practicality. Where necessary, he preserved elements to maintain morale and utility, while simultaneously reshaping the city to reflect his empire's grandeur and culture. One of his most significant actions was the transformation of Hagia Sophia from an emblematic Christian basilica into a mosque, signaling not merely a change of rulers, but a shift in the city's spiritual identity. The conversion was a strategic blend of appropriation and preservation, integrating Islamic elements into its Byzantine architecture. This merging of identities became a testament to a new order where the past legacy served as a foundation upon which the empire's aspirations were built, a physical manifestation of the intertwined Eastern and Western roots that defined the Ottoman character. Mehmed's plans were not merely political, but deeply transformative. He was determined to re-establish Constantinople as the heart of the Ottoman Empire, viewing his capital not just as a seat of power, but as a beacon for cultural, intellectual, and economic revival, encouraging migration in skilled trades. Mehmed envisioned a flourishing metropolis, a vibrant cultural hub that would legitimize his dominion. The Sultan understood that while military might was essential, the strength of an empire was woven from economic vitality and cultural richness. The once static city became a confluence of cultures, a melting pot where the remnants of Byzantium mingled with vibrant Ottoman life. Encouraged by policies promoting tolerance and cultural synthesis, Constantinople became a hub where goods and ideas flowed freely across continents, creating a bustling cosmopolitan city. Its streets resonated with the sounds of myriad languages. Its markets were alive with products from distant lands. Scholars and thinkers from diverse backgrounds found a home here, igniting a renaissance of learning that intertwined Eastern and Western philosophies. The legacy of Byzantium, rather than being suppressed, melded with the new order, enriching the socio-cultural framework Mehmed sought to build. His ability to synthesize these elements showcased his true political genius. The architecture of churches coexisted with mosques, while Byzantine bureaucratic traditions were adapted into Ottoman governance, creating a living palimpsest that facilitated smoother transitions and administration. Under Mehmed's leadership, Constantinople did not merely survive, it thrived. The city, once synonymous with Byzantine decline, rose as a global center for commerce, learning, and culture, projecting Ottoman prestige across the known world. Its geographical position as a strategic nexus ensured that trade routes and scholarly connections flourished, making the city a pulsating heart that interacted with and influenced global affairs. Mehmed's transformation of Constantinople heralded a broader vision for an empire that transcended geographic and cultural barriers. His reign was not just about expanding borders, but harmonizing civilizations into a cohesive whole. Mehmed's intellectual and cultural policies fostered a dynamic and sophisticated realm, reflecting his belief in a confluence of worlds. By the time Constantinople had fully embraced its identity as Istanbul, it stood as a testament not only to Mehmed's architectural ambitions, but to his enduring vision that shaped history long after his era had passed. The fall of Constantinople in 1453 sent shockwaves across Europe, leaving a continent in disbelief and amazement. News of the city's collapse traveled swiftly, disrupting courts and clergy with an urgency uncharacteristic of the era's slow communication channels. For over a millennium, Constantinople had stood as a steadfast bulwark against Islamic expansion into Europe, a sentinel of Christendom. But its fall was more than a territorial loss. It was a catastrophe that profoundly shook the Christian world. Western Europe, long indifferent to the plight of their Eastern Orthodox brethren, found themselves confronting the advance of the Ottoman Empire at their doorstep. Amidst the murmurs in taverns and the rustling of parchments in dimly lit chambers, a question was whispered. Would the Ottomans now turn westward? For many, the fall was interpreted as a reckoning, a divine reminder of neglected ties and failed crusades. Although some European powers, like the mercantile Italian states, had maintained trade relations with the Ottomans, the new reality ignited fears of Islamic advance into Central Europe. Calls for renewed crusades echoed, yet fragmented and war-weary Christendom struggled to mobilize any significant opposition. This lack of unity highlighted the fractured tapestry of medieval Europe. Although local efforts emerged, they were inconsistent, weaving a narrative of European disunity that played into the hands of expanding Ottoman influence. Within this turmoil, an unexpected yet enlightening migration began, as Constantinople's fall triggered an intellectual exodus into the heart of Europe, Italy. Byzantine scholars carrying precious manuscripts journeyed westward, sowing the seeds of what would become the Renaissance. Their knowledge of classical Greek and Roman works breathed new life into the burgeoning humanist movements of Italian courts and academia. These manuscripts were more than just relics. They were keys unlocking new avenues in Western thought, art, and science. Greek classics re-entered the intellectual domain, invigorating philosophers and artists alike, shaping the nuances of Renaissance humanism and prompting re-evaluations of humanity's place in the cosmos. Meanwhile, the economic impact of Constantinople's fall was profound and immediate. The city had long been the central hub of East-West trade, channeling spices from India, silk from China, a bazaar of empires. Now, with its Turkish custodians demanding hefty tolls, European powers scrambled for new routes. What emerged was a maritime race that challenged the known world, spurring the age of exploration. Nations like Portugal and Spain embarked on quests to bypass the landlocked Ottoman corridors. Navigators such as Vasco da Gama sought new passages, circumnavigating Africa to reach the fabled riches of the East, altering global trade dynamics and setting the stage for new empires founded on the high seas. Religiously and culturally, the conquest stirred deep waters. The division between the Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic churches, already a lingering schism, deepened as the conquest resonated as divine admonishment. There was a tentative rekindling of dialogue. However, it underscored the delicate dance between faith and geopolitics. For the Ottomans, with Mehmed II at their helm, the absorption of such a diverse population necessitated cultural pluralism. Transformations like Hagia Sophia's conversion to a mosque signified a symbolic victory, yet also a pragmatic tolerance through the millet system, allowing diverse religious communities to thrive under one banner. The military landscape of Europe shifted dramatically as remnants of Constantinople's famed defenses lay in ruins, victims of Mehmed's mighty cannons. This ushered in an evolution in military strategy, advancing the understanding of artillery warfare and prompting the redesign of fortifications. The star forts of later centuries with their angled walls represented this strategic shift. A naval arms race followed in the Mediterranean waters, solidifying an era of artillery supremacy and setting the course for future engagements. Diplomatically, the siege brought about realignments throughout Europe. States reconsidered long-standing enmities, forging alliances out of necessity against a powerful Ottoman threat. The call for unity materialized in sporadic gestures, as the waxing and waning alliances highlighted the complexities of 15th century diplomacy. Embedded within these changes was the symbol of Constantinople's fall, seeping into the iconography and sermons of Eastern Europe, painting a melancholic echo that resonated in church choirs and religious art. The legacy of Constantinople's demise shaped a cultural identity steeped in resilience and memory. Its shadow was perceptible in the unfolding narrative of the region's steadfast resistance against future incursions. Yet from this upheaval emerged an enduring transformation. With Mehmed's capture of the city, Constantinople transitioned into Istanbul, a vibrant Ottoman jewel where architectural marvels arose and cultures intermingled freely. Istanbul became an enduring symbol bridging West and East. Its vibrancy was a testament to the vision of a conqueror who understood that power lay in embracing hybridity. Today, the shadow of Constantinople's fall remains far more than just a historical record. It redefined trajectories, seeded intellectual revolutions, and paved pathways for modernity. Its ripples linger in cultural, political, and academic discourses, a chapter echoing through time. As this tapestry weaves into stories told and retold by firelight, one truth remains. Boundaries may rise and fall, but their echoes, much like the whispered past of Constantinople, endure in the human story.